The history of the Ripple vs. SEC case, the whole story. The story begins long before the lawsuit ever hit the headlines, the tension already building beneath the surface, the financial world shifting, the crypto market expanding, the regulators watching quietly from the shadows, Ripple growing faster than expected, banks experimenting with digital settlement, central authorities feeling the pressure of a world no longer waiting for permission. And in this rising storm, XRP stood as an asset unlike any other, a bridge currency, a tool with real-world function, a threat to the legacy system according to some, a revolution to others, and as Ripple forged partnerships across continents, the whispers of regulation began to tighten, the air becoming heavy with anticipation. For years Ripple operated openly, meeting with agencies, meeting with governments, meeting with institutions who wanted to understand the technology, yet the defining confrontation was forming silently like pressure beneath tectonic plates, and by the time most of the world noticed, it was already too late. The conflict was unavoidable, the collision course set. The SEC had watched the industry grow, claiming to protect investors, claiming to regulate fairly, yet clarity remained foggy, interpretations changed monthly, projects were left guessing, nothing was certain, the entire ecosystem trapped in regulatory ambiguity, and Ripple, rising quickly, found itself at the center of every conversation. Rumors circulated, meetings took place behind closed doors, officials debated internally, some argued Ripple was innovating too fast, others believed XRP was essential to the next era of global finance, and yet the internal divide only grew, policies unclear, definitions inconsistent, the environment perfect for a coming battle. Then the moment arrived, the spark, the event that would change crypto forever. On a cold December day in 2020, the SEC filed its lawsuit against Ripple Labs and its top executives, accusing XRP of being an unregistered security, the shockwave immediate, the market trembling, the community stunned, the industry frozen in disbelief. Within hours exchanges delisted XRP, fear spread like wildfire, holders felt abandoned, critics celebrated, pundits predicted the end, yet Ripple did not collapse. Instead something unexpected happened, the fight began, the resistance formed, the narrative shifted, and what the SEC thought would be a quick victory transformed into a multi-year legal war. Brad Garlinghouse refused to retreat, Chris Larson refused to concede, Ripple's legal team began assembling their strategy, the defense built around transparency, around years of public communication, around documents showing Ripple repeatedly asked for clarity and was given none, and the more the evidence surfaced, the more cracks appeared in the SEC's case. And while the lawsuit unfolded, the market continued evolving. Institutional money entered Bitcoin. Ethereum surged, regulators around the world released crypto frameworks, and yet the SEC's accusations against Ripple seemed trapped in a previous era, as if arguing about a world that no longer existed, a regulatory theory that no longer matched reality. Every hearing revealed tension, every filing raised questions, every motion added pressure. The SEC insisted XRP was a security, Ripple insisted it was a digital asset used globally for payments. The judge listened carefully, observing the contradictions, pressing the agency for clarity, asking questions the SEC struggled to answer. And as the case expanded, so did the stakes, for this was no longer simply Ripple versus the SEC, this became crypto versus uncertainty, this became innovation versus stagnation, this became clarity versus confusion, and the entire industry understood the outcome would shape the future of digital assets in the United States. Throughout 2021 and 2022 the evidence piled up, the Hinman emails became legendary, written by an official whose speech declared Ethereum not a security, yet the internal communications surrounding that speech revealed conflicts, inconsistencies, and debates that undermined the SEC's arguments. The disclosure of those documents shook the foundation of the case. Months of delay followed, motions sealed and unsealed, experts presented opinions, regulators faced scrutiny, the industry watched with growing impatience, and behind the scenes Ripple continued building, expanding corridors, deepening partnerships, proving XRP utility even as the lawsuit raged on, and this resilience became part of the legend, the unheard strength beneath the surface. As the case reached its midpoint, the tension became unbearable, the crypto community waited for summary judgment, the moment when the judge would finally deliver her interpretation of what XRP truly represented. Investors speculated, lawyers debated, economists weighed in, the entire world of digital finance held its breath. And then it happened, the ruling the world had been waiting for, the judgment that would define an era, the decision that would either free XRP or bury it beneath regulatory weight, and as the judge's words echoed across crypto media, the shock was immediate. XRP sales on public exchanges were declared not securities, the news erupting like a volcanic explosion across the market. Joy spread instantly, holders celebrating, communities cheering, exchanges rushing to relist, XRP soaring in price, the victory undeniable. Yet the ruling did not end the conflict entirely. The judge also ruled that certain institutional sales were securities, and this partial split decision opened a new chapter in the legal war. The SEC scrambled to regain control, the agency challenged the ruling, arguing it created inconsistencies, arguing it weakened their regulatory authority, arguing it set a dangerous precedent for their enforcement strategy, but Ripple's momentum grew stronger. The credibility shifting, the narrative turning against the SEC, industry leaders speaking out, calling the agency's approach outdated and aggressive. As appeals were discussed, the case became more than a lawsuit. It became a mirror reflecting the flaws of the U.S. regulatory system, a spotlight on years of unclear guidance, a symbol of the struggle between innovation and bureaucracy, the entire crypto ecosystem beginning to rally behind Ripple, recognizing that its fate was deeply connected to theirs. Meanwhile, Ripple continued expanding, building payment corridors, partnering with major institutions across Asia, Europe, the Middle East, and Latin America, demonstrating utility in the real world regardless of the courtroom battles, and this global growth contrasted sharply with the narrative the SEC attempted to paint, a narrative quickly losing its power. The judge pressed the SEC for deadlines, the court demanded clarity, the agency's delays became increasingly visible, and as discovery continued, the inconsistencies within the SEC's internal communications became harder to ignore. Documents revealed confusion, contradictions, policy disagreements, and shifting interpretations that weakened the agency's position even further. Ripple used every opportunity to highlight these inconsistencies, arguing that the SEC failed to provide fair notice, arguing that Ripple had operated transparently, arguing that multiple government agencies previously viewed XRP as a digital asset, not a security, and the more these arguments surfaced, the more the court recognized the broader implications of the case. Throughout 2023 and 2024 the pressure intensified, the SEC requested additional remedies, attempting to impose massive penalties, attempting to restrict Ripple's business, attempting to salvage authority after a damaging ruling, but Ripple pushed back with equal force, filing responses, providing evidence, challenging assumptions, and exposing gaps in the agency's logic, the tension rising with every document filed. The crypto market watched closely, analysts predicting scenarios, speculators debating timelines, legal experts examining every filing, the uncertainty creating waves of fear and hope simultaneously, and yet through all the chaos Ripple maintained confidence, its executives stating repeatedly that the truth was on their side, the evidence undeniable, the clarity inevitable. As negotiations became more probable, rumors spread of potential settlement discussions, industry insiders whispered about private meetings, closed-door talks, and strategic back-channel communications, and although no agreement was finalized at that stage, the possibility of resolution felt closer than ever, creating a new wave of anticipation across the community. Central banks continued exploring digital currencies, governments drafted new crypto frameworks, international organizations emphasized interoperability. And XRP's real-world use cases became increasingly aligned with the future of global finance, and the irony grew clearer. The more the world embraced digital assets, the weaker the SEC's position appeared, the lawsuit looking increasingly outdated. The case evolved into a symbol of resistance, a long-running fight that exposed flaws within the system and gave the crypto industry a rallying point. The pressure shifting from Ripple to the regulators themselves, voices demanding clarity, voices demanding consistency, voices demanding fairness, and the judge continued urging both sides toward resolution. The final phase approached slowly, seemingly at a distance yet growing closer with every court order, the discussions turning from accusations to remedies, from debate to calculation, from hostility to conclusion, the entire industry sensing that the ending was forming just beyond the horizon, a conclusion shaped by years of conflict, evidence, and strategic maneuvering. The timeline became tighter, the deadlines unavoidable, the court refusing delay after delay, pushing the case toward its final chapters, and Ripple's confidence grew stronger, their arguments sharpened, their evidence expanded, their global partnerships flourishing even as the courtroom battles reached their peak, the duality shaping the narrative of both conflict and triumph.